Hello everybody and welcome to the Daily Splatt. Today is video number 5 in our series of 20 previewing the English Premier League season 2012 to 2013. And with the excitement building as we get ever closer to the start of the Premier League, today we are previewing the season for the Cottagers, Fulham Football Club. So, what are we looking at for Fulham this season? Well, we've seen a few changes in Fulham over recent years. Obviously, Roy Hodgson was in charge for a time and was doing very well. And then, of course, he left to take over at Liverpool. Things didn't work out. Now he's England manager. Funny how it works out. And then they replaced him with Mark Hughes. Mark Hughes was there for a season, which was, he did relatively well. He didn't do anything spectacular, but he was a good replacement. And then he disappeared, deciding to join QPR, and so they brought in Martin Jol, who was a manager that they were interested in bringing in around the time that they ended up getting Hughes. So Jol came in, had his first season, and Fulham finished a very respectable ninth, 52 points in total, level on points with Liverpool, but despite getting 3 more points than they did in the season under Hughes, although finishing a place lower. So Fulham, a bit like Everton, who we were talking about yesterday, they're a team that continue to just sort of tread water a bit, and generally do all right without being spectacular. And they're remaining in the Premier League. They're doing what lots of the teams would like to do or be able to do, and that's just be a team in the Premier League that stays there and isn't really in too much danger of relegation. In terms of transfers, Fulham have let 4 go and brought 4 in. In terms of coming in, they've brought in a few forwards. Mladen Petric joining on a free, so too Hugo Rodallega, who was playing at Wigan. Petric coming in from Hamburg, although again they were both on a free. George Williams has joined them on an undisclosed fee. He's a teenage striker from the Milton Keynes Dons, and they've also signed on a loan the right back Sascha Riether, who was playing for FC Köln in Germany. He's joining on a season-long loan. They've come in replacing Dixon Atu, who it's announced is going to be joining Blackburn Rovers, along with Danny Murphy, who's also gone there for an undisclosed fee. Andy Johnson is now joined Queen's Park Rangers. He left on a free, one of several players that have come into QPR. And Marcel Gekov, nope, I don't know him either, but apparently he played 2 games for Fulham last season, and he has now been allowed to move on as well. So, with these players that they've brought in, this Fulham team, they've got some relatively good players in there. Mark Schwarzer still remains a pretty good goalkeeper, and of course there's always the option of young Englishman David Stockdale from off the bench, who's certainly shown, he's not a bad player at all. But for Fulham, the remainder of this transfer window, sort of the main issues haven't really happened yet. Namely, Clint Dempsey is still at the club. Clint Dempsey was absolutely outstanding for Fulham last season. Played really, really well, and scored pretty much all their goals. Fantastic player, and has been linked with a move to Liverpool amongst other clubs. Liverpool seems to be the one he's most strongly linked with. Now, it hasn't been confirmed if he will be going, although there was some news a couple of days ago that it might have been confirmed, and then it turned out it wasn't. Basically, it will be surprising if Dempsey is still at the club come the 1st of September. There's similar concerns for Moussa Dembele, the forward who had a pretty impressive season last season, I'd say. Obviously, he's had to overcome these injury problems. He had some quite severe injury problems. Dembele, the Belgian, is good. He plays, generally sort of wide left or as a left forward type thing, but also sometimes in midfield. He's very versatile and has apparently been attracting attention from the likes of Arsenal and Manchester United. So, he's the 2 players that are in demand. I think Fulham's season will be affected by if they can hold on to these 2 players or one of these 2 players, because Fulham, even if they did get decent money for Dempsey and Dembele, let's say for argument's sake they got 15 million for both, they ended up with 30 million pounds just as a rough estimate. It'd be interesting to see what sort of players they could attract. They could certainly, put the money forward to get a half-decent player, or maybe they be wiser and maybe spend it on 3 players worth about £10 million, that sort of thing, and integrate them in that way. But of course, the fact is there's not too much long left of the transfer window. We've got less than a month to go, and any move to bring in these players would have to move pretty quickly. So yes, we shall have to wait and see. But assuming the squad stays as it is, assuming Dempsey and Dembele are still there and play the whole season for Fulham, I think Fulham might struggle a little bit to stay in the top 10. Not because I think they're a bad team. I think they're a bit like Everton. They're very solid and robust. It's just I did a little prediction-y table, and I had them sort of finishing 10th, 11th, 12th, that sort of place. I've got them 11th on this one, but Fulham could easily finish 8th or 9th again. They could finish maybe even above Everton if they have a particularly good season, but equally they could finish as low as 13th, 14th, 15th, I feel, if they have a bit of a stinker. I don't think they will, and it's just something about Fulham and the way the team's shaping up. I could just see them finishing, top of the bottom half, and 11th. That's not a terrible position for Fulham, like you say. That's, like I was saying before, it's a good position for them to, they're not going to be in relegation trouble. Equally, I don't think they're going to be challenging for the league title or indeed European qualification. There's obviously the outside chance they could qualify for the Europa League again, a competition they very nearly did win under Hodgson. That is kind of a possibility, and I suppose it's what they should be aiming for, but I just don't fancy them compared to some of the other teams that they're up against. They're going to be competing with the likes of Everton, Sunderland, Stoke, for those spots in the top half of the table, and I just sort of fancy teams, Everton, Sunderland a bit more, really. So there you go. But equally they did finish on the same points as Liverpool, and I'm predicting Liverpool to have a slightly better season. So Fulham could, by all means, surprise me and end up finishing, 6th or 7th, finishing ahead of, one of the teams like Newcastle or Liverpool or possibly even Tottenham, that sort of thing. But yeah, my gut feeling is 10th, 11th sort of place, but they're certainly going to be a bit difficult to break down, and the possibility of having fit strikers is got to be an interesting one, because they're a difficult enough team to beat as they are. With a fully fit Hugo Rodallega up front, he could certainly get them a few goals, particularly if Dembele and Dempsey are still there to provide the ammunition. Okay, that's all for today. Make sure you tune in tomorrow when we're going to be talking about Liverpool's prospects. So yes, we'll be discussing that. Until then, bye-bye.